Welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Market. I'm Nathan Hale from the Librarian of Alexandria, and I'm here with my host, Trent Richardson. Hey, Trent, how's it going?
How's it going, Hale? Everything going good in the land of the COVID?
It is going as well as can be expected in this quarantine zone. We're all sitting in the oubliette right now. We are definitely removed from game. It is not fun, but we're making do, doing some online gameplay and the like. Speaking of, we played a game of EDH the other day, and I broke out that Storm the Vault in my Saheeli the Gifted deck, and it did some work.
Yeah, it definitely did some work. And, who would have thought Tolarian Academy is, fantastic, But
it's doing work elsewhere, too, from what we've seen.
Yeah, so since last week, I think there's been some movement since we talked about this card.
I think it was sitting around, what 270, I think, when we mentioned it on the show a week or two ago.
Yep.
And now it's sitting at close to $4.
Yeah,
that's a big jump in 1 to 2 weeks. I still think it's a deal at $4, to be honest. In fact, I picked up a couple last week after we talked about it. Because I realized I don't have that many of them, and I was like, maybe I should jump on these before they spike. And sure enough, they've already spiked. So,
yeah, as have a lot of cards that are commander playable this time in our lives. But even at $4, Tolarian Academy for $4. Now, yes, it is 2-color, it is red and blue, but red and blue love artifact decks, so. Yeah. It's a no-brainer in a red and blue artifact deck. Oh my gosh, your deck just stomped everybody. It was kind of ridiculous.
It exploded basically when Tolarian hit. It just went boom. The turn following playing that, it just kind of went off. And I think I did a Saheeli's Resolve for 30-something.
Yeah, at that point, it was already a foregone conclusion by that point, though.
Yeah. Now there might have been one card that could have saved the table if someone had it, which brings me, actually, come to think of it, to our uncommonly good spec, and that's actually Vandalblast.
Yeah, Vandalblast could have saved somebody for sure.
That's a sorcery for 1 red, destroy target artifact you don't control. Sounds underwhelming, I know. But it does have overload. So for a red and 4, you instead destroy each artifact you don't control. So it's kind of like the Cyclonic Rift of artifact destruction, which can be really good. I've heard, from some experience, I have some experience here, but I've heard that artifacts are kind of played a lot in EDH. Mana rocks and the like.
Yeah. From what I understand, people like to play those colorless cards. I don't understand it, but to each their own,
Oh, yeah. So this card has only seen 2 printings. The original printing in RTR, Return to Ravnica, as an uncommon, and again as an uncommon, and I believe it was Commander 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Now, it's currently sitting at $4. Its highest ever was $4.10, which was really only, I think, a couple weeks ago. And it currently sees play in 38,000 decks, or 20% of decks that can run it. Now, by comparison, Cyclonic Rift sees play in 43% of decks. Cyclonic Rift is arguably one of the most staple cards in Commander. And I think the only reason it's only at 43% is probably because of the price of Cyclonic Rift, which has kept it out of a lot of players' hands. Now, that's not so much the case with Vandalblast, which is sitting, like I said, at its current high of 4. And it has never really dipped. It's been, since its original printing, a constant spike up, even with the printing in Commander 2015.
Sure.
So I really feel this is a card that could run, meta-dependent, of course, in your game group that you play with. This is probably something that should be running 70+% of decks that run red. I think the value there's really no drawback, and I can't think of a single game I've ever played in Commander where there's not at least one artifact I want to gotten rid of, and why get rid of one when you can get rid of all your opponents?
Right.
The only drawback, of course, being sorcery, but that's a pretty small price to pay, I think, for the power you get out of this card and at that price.
Yeah, no, I agree. And at $4 right now, we're seeing its current market high ever. I mean, it's probably not the time to get into it. Honestly, I'd be into it at like maybe $2.50 or so.
When I got in was about $2 about 18 months ago. It's doubled up since then. I don't see this as a quick grab in buy like FOMO. There's no FOMO here, but I will say this: I would probably keep an eye on it and see if it gets a reprint. There's still a few cards left to be revealed in Double Master. See if it gets a reprint there. See if it gets a reprint in Commander Legends. If it doesn't see a reprint in either of those, I'd grab this card at least enough that you want to play with. Currently, you can get bulk copies as low as $3. Because truth is, like Cyclonic Rift, I remember I kind of like hemmed and hawed when I bought into it at $9. I was like, I don't know, it's $9, and then I bought a couple more when it was at $12. And now I look back at the 7-8 copies that I have that I bought all under $12, and I'm like, yeah, that was a good buy. But I remember thinking then the same thought you have now about Vandalblast. Granted, it's the difference between rare and uncommon, but Cyclonic Rift has seen 2 more reprints than Vandalblast has.
Sure, I mean that's fair.
Granted, blue is far more popular color than red.
Sure. I mean, honestly, yeah. If you need the card, it's a great card. Don't get me wrong. I would run it in every single red deck I have. In fact, I do. I think have it in most of my red decks. But even at $4, I mean, it's still a good pickup.
I wouldn't pick it up at $4 right now either. I agree with you on that.
I wouldn't either unless you really want to play with it. But I'd like to be in it at about $2.50 because I think $4 is probably the ceiling on this card. I think maybe $5 could be the real ceiling. But again, we'll see what happens with reprints. And this is a card that could go the way, like we see Soul Ring is reprinted it's reprinted in 4 commander decks every year. Yeah. And we never see a price tick down on it. So it could be something similar to that. It'd be interesting to see what happens with Vandalblast, and we'll keep an eye on it for sure.
The one thing that did tend to interest me with Vandalblast, specifically with this episode, because as those of you who know me or have watched the other content we've produced, I'm not a fan of red. Red is the redheaded stepchild of Magic for me. I don't play it unless I don't have much resort or it's paired with another color I really like, such as blue.
Right.
That being said, red and white have both been stepping up their game on the WotC printings of recent. Red's increasing in popularity in Commander due to Burn's increasing viability with commanders like Torbrand, which even I am like, that guy's good. And Zurzoth, the new devil from Jumpstart that has everybody jumping and biting at the bits to play. So with Red's increasing popularity, I can see cards like Vandalblast becoming increasingly more popular with players. But that aside, I agree. I would not buy into this over $3, considering you can currently get lightly played bulk at $3. And I would look, if you're just looking for this to play, look for it under $2.50 at lightly played to near mint. I think, barring a reprint, this has wings. But with a reprint, it could get crushed. So
I would agree.
There's some risk there. But then again, not really if it's a card you want to play with.
Sure. Yeah, so, speaking of wings, the next card we've got here, and, I've been looking at this card ever since it came out. I thought it was pretty fantastic.
Is this a bit of a long shot here?
It might be. Let's go ahead and call it. This is going to be our long shot. So, Narset's Reversal, for those of you who don't know, 2 blue mana for an instant, copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. Then you may choose new targets for the copy. Sorry. Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like a remand mixed with a double cast, but it's in blue only. I mean,
Yeah, it's honestly very powerful. For example, we just mentioned a card called Vandalblast. Well, you know what? I'm going to borrow that Vandalblast, put that back in your hand, and I'm going to blow up everybody else's artifact, which in this case includes yours, who just played Vandalblast, or Cyclonic Rift, or any number of other very powerful cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's pretty fantastic. And, you know, we did see an all-time high back in May of $6.70, which I was super, super excited about because I did get in on these on the ground floor, and I did buy more of these than any card in War of the Spark. Unfortunately, we have seen a downtick since then. We're back down to 270. And I'm not really sure what that's a function of. Maybe we're just not seeing a lot in people's metas of instant and sorcery spell decks going on.
Well, now, arguably, in defense of the card, it's played in over 20,000 decks in EDH. 10% of decks that can play it in EDH, and there's a decent spread between TCG Mid and Card Kingdom, which is typically a good indicator. I think it's about $1.25 difference between the two. So, considering that difference, I think there's still room for this. But the other thing we need to keep an account of is War of the Spark is getting ready to go out of print. Mm-hmm. If it hasn't already. I believe it's about to. I think it's still technically there, but it's on the fringes. Right. We're probably going to see a dip in this card further with rotation. But that's often a key time to get in on the low cost on a card that is a very good target for Commander. And at 20,000 decks, 10% in Commander, I'd say that's a decent target. If this card drops down into the like $1.50 range, I think I'd start snatching these up.
I mean, sure. And honestly, even at 270 right now, I'm still in on it. It's
still good. Well, you've got Calamax right now, which really wants an ability like this because it copies an ability, and now you can just, if I'm not mistaken, go infinite with Calamax at that point because he can make a copy of Narset's Reversal and then back copying the original, and on and on and on and on and on, as has been done numerous times with so many different fork effects in Calamax. So I won't go into all that here, but it's yet another ability that can cause that go infinite with Calamax.
Yeah, that's a pretty spicy combo for sure. And you know, so speaking of spicy combos, we got a spoiler alert here. So today on this show, you know, we've got something pretty exciting for you guys. We're gonna talk about another card or two first, but man, Christopher Columbus set sail from Spain to try and find the spice levels in India, and he didn't find it. But by God, he found it today. He found it today, guys.
Oh, yeah.
Man,
I'm going to let you guys down a little secret. I didn't know about this card until not long ago, shortly, when we sent me his list of his picks, because he's like, I got to catch up. Nathan's had some spicy picks. I saw this, and I was like, yeah, this one you guys want to stick around for.
Stick around. We've got the spice.
I've been playing since 94, and I didn't even know about this card. And I looked at it and I said, why am I not running this card? And why are there that few on the market right now? We'll get there. Stick around. But first, we want to talk about...
We'll get there. Yeah.
That hard lock, right?
Yeah, we got our hard lock.
Now, these are the cards in this case that you want to really consider getting in on while you can, because they are going fast, and they're going big, and the possibility of reprint is relatively small on these cards. And what we're talking about is Pure Imaginative Rascal and Toothy Imaginary Friend. Now, these partners in crime and partners in Commander will allow you, when you play one, to tutor the other out of your deck, assuming you're not playing them as commanders, since they are legendary creatures. Pure is a 1/1 for 2 and a green legendary creature human, partners with Toothy Imaginary Friend. And if one or more counters will be put on a permanent your team controls, that many plus one of each of those kind of counters are put on that permanent instead. Now, what's really phenomenal about Peer in this regard is, unlike, say, Doubling Season, when you play a Planeswalker, it comes into play, doubles the counters on it. Everybody knows it. It's phenomenal, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you add to the loyalty of that Planeswalker by using a plus ability, it doesn't double from Doubling Season.
Right.
However, with Peer, it still adds that additional counter, even when you're plussing loyalty on a Planeswalker. So you take something like the new Teferi, Master of Time, and you tick them up, or as you round the table, you're getting 2 counters instead of 1 each time you're ticking them up as it rounds the table. You're going to be taking a, what is that, the double time walk?
The ultimate.
Yes, in no time whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another reason I bring up Peer here is we're about to see a reprint of the aforementioned Doubling Season and Atraxa. In the upcoming Double Masters here. Now, Atraxa is the number 2 all-time commander in Magic. In Magic, yes. I myself have 2 Atraxa decks. One that's counter-based, one that's Super Friends. Mm-hmm. This card's very popular. The number 1 currently is Muldrotha. He kind of overtook her, but I think that's going to be short-lived. I think the reason she hasn't had more is she's only seen 2 printings at very limited print runs. Sure. People want the card. WotC's reprinted. Here it is. We're going to probably see Atraxa retake first place. Now, in the past couple months, Peer and Toothy have had a double up in the case of Peer and a triple up in the case of Toothy in just the past 3 months.
Wait, did you just say a double up for Peer and a triple up for Toothy?
Yep.
So I mean they both come in the same pack. So how does
this blows my mind, right? So take Peer for example. Okay. Peer is sitting, he's running nearly 6,000 decks, roughly 3% decks that could run him. His TCG mid is, and he's currently running only 29% of Atraxa decks, which is a crime.
Yeah.
TCG mid is 5.25. Although I will point out the TCG market, which is really a better indicator, has him at $6 to give you a better idea of where he's really at right now. And he's up since April and continuing to climb. You can currently get bulk copies of him as low as $3.54 on TCG, which is a bargain. But this is where it gets weird, right? So that's the value and the cost right now going for Peer. But then when you look at Toothy, he's running only 5,400 decks that could run him, which is about 600 decks less than Peer. And only about 24% of Atraxa decks. Yet, despite all that, he fetches a higher price at $8 TCG mid, which is up from $2.50 in April. And there's less copies available on TCG. Now, this is where my mind's going, math doesn't work, because Peer and Toothy were only in Battle Bond. Mm-hmm. And in Battle Bond, when you got partner commanders, you got them both in the booster. So you always had both. So by reference, there's exactly the same amount of Peer imaginary friend, or a Peer imaginative rascal as there are Toothy imaginary friends in the world. Same number. If there's 10,000 one, there's 10,000 of the other. So these numbers being offset is very confusing, especially considering, in my humble opinion, if you are playing one, you should probably be playing the other. Now, granted, you might have a mono blue that just does card draw, and you want Toothy, and you're doing card draw, and you're getting value off that. I can understand that. Yet, by the same argument, there's enough decks out there that run counter, as in +1/+1 counters, or whatever other type of counter you'd want, that would make Peer just as useful, valuable in those. Yet the difference when you look at Atraxa over from Peer and Atraxa, and imagine Toothy and Atraxa, and see a 5% difference, that's where my mind goes, something's not clicking right. kind of blows my mind.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is, I mean, people are running it in like mono green decks. Toothy, that is. I mean,
well, he's in more Atraxa decks than Toothy is, and I'm thinking maybe a Toothy's seen play in mono blue, but it's less decks overall. It doesn't quite click, and I'm thinking that any deck, in the case I use Atraxa as what should I say, the balancing point here in which to base one off the other. My baseline, thank you, is that both slot amazingly in Atraxa. Like, even if they were on their own, you would run, even if they weren't partners, you'd likely run both of them in an Atraxa deck. Just because the value. Now, the thing that gets me out Toothy that's so phenomenal that I think a lot of people overlook is his ability, which I didn't read off Toothy. Let me read that. He's a legendary creature illusion for 3 and a blue for a 1/1. Partner again with Peer, Imaginative Rascal. And when you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Toothy. When Toothy leaves the battlefield, draw a card for each +1/+1 counter on it. So it doesn't matter if he gets oublieted or bounce from a Cyclonic Rift or swords or whatever, you're going to draw for each +1/+1 counter on him, regardless of why he left the battlefield. Even if you just bounced him yourself.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just it. It says the word draw a card on there. So, I mean, it obviously is worth more money.
And maybe, I mean, I can't say that blue's a more popular than green color than green is in Commander, that's for sure, because I think they're pretty much on par. Green might even have an edge on it, to be honest, because Ramp's powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, looking at these cards and just the huge climbs and spikes they've had recently, and then knowing that we have both Atraxa and Doubling Season about to come out pseudo in mass via double masters, I'd say get these cards now while you can. They have shown a reluctance to reprint partners anywhere. In fact, the only partner reprints have come in the form of 2 partners got reprinted, and they were in the, or was it 4? But they were from Commander Anthology 2 when they reprinted a couple of the 2016 decks.
Right.
So they've shown a reluctance to reprint partners, and outside of Commander Legends, I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Right, and I don't know that they'd use a platform like Commander Legends to reprint Peer and Toothy this quickly. I think they probably got more ideas than these cards that aren't overpriced yet.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
You know, and they're still widely available. I mean, there's plenty available on TCG Player. You know, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely a hard lock. Get in now. I mean, even if they go up another $1, grab them. I mean, we're not going to see the ceiling on this for a while. These are just going to be staples. I mean, forever. There's always going to be a place for them in Commander.
Looking at cards such as Peer, Imaginative Rascal, that add counters, different types of counters, and you look at comparable cards currently. The new one from Jumpstart, the I want to say Evolving Wild, Bounding Wilds or something that doubles up. You look at Parallel Lives. You look at the white one that doubles tokens. You look at all these ones that double or add on, even Hardened Scales. These cards continue to climb in value, and Peer has a single printing, and because he's a partner, has probably a lot less likely of a reprint. And then you look at just a straight up power level of Toothy. These seem a no-brainer because, quite simply, if you're playing in blue and green, one's going to replace the other when you cast them, which in Magic Economy, when you can cast a card and replace the card, is straight up good, because even if that card gets blown out, you replaced it. You lost essentially nothing. These cards are no-brainers. I bought up quite a few early on because they were a no-dud in me. And the fact that they're still as low as they are astounds me. And I think it's just people haven't quite realized just how ridiculous the power level on these is. But that won't last long.
No. I mean, they definitely end up in CEDH decks. I mean, it just They just should be there.
Yeah, I literally played against a Pure and Toothy deck that they were the commanders, and the guy was like, it's not super powerful. By like turn 6, he'd drawn a third of his deck.
Yeah.
From Toothy. And we were looking like, really? Because he just ramped Pure, Toothy, combo, win. Because when you draw a third of your deck, it's kind of easy to combo win. And he was like, sorry, it normally doesn't do this, but that shows the power of those cards. And that was in the command zone. They're not very popular commanders for some strange reason, because I was rather impressed, to be quite honest. But even not as commanders in the 99, they're just busted.
Sure. So, I don't know if I can wait much longer, Hill. The Spice Train is coming to town, and man.
Is this our diamond in the rough here?
So, yeah, this is the diamond in the rough. But, it's as close to even a hard lock, I mean, this is both a diamond in the rough and a hard lock all in one. But, okay, so without any further ado, Overwhelming Forces.
Tell them what it does.
6, 2 black, sorcery, destroy all your opponent's creatures.
But wait, there's more.
Yes, there's more. Then you draw a card for each creature destroyed this way.
So you're saying that this costs less mana, 1 less mana than all other black destroy all creatures you don't control. It costs the same amount of mana as Decree of Pain.
Yep.
Draws you the cards, but doesn't
That Decree of Pain doesn't let you draw.
Yeah, that doesn't touch, and it doesn't touch your board.
Yeah. Sounds like I want to run that card in my black deck.
Yeah.
So why isn't everyone?
So how many decks are running it right now?
I think like 201.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
No. This doesn't make sense, because Decree of Pain is in nearly 17,000 decks.
Right.
17,000 decks. It's in 8% of decks that can run it in EDH. So what's the deal? Is it a cost factor? Maybe. I mean, I know Decree of Pain is sitting around $5 at Card Kingdom.
Yeah, so it's in 228 decks, and the cost factor was an issue back in 2013. It was $140.
Wow.
Today it's 36.
Wait, 36? I think
$36.
I think the Damnation costs more than that, doesn't it? Damn near.
Damn near. Yeah.
Now, granted, that's a 4 casting cost versus 8 casting cost, but this is a one-sided board wipe and draws you cards for each creature destroyed. This seems like a no-brainer. And it's only... Now, there's got to be a reason why this only run in 200 decks. How many are there available on TCG right now?
Well, see, I thought maybe, there's going to be tons of these, especially since it's been on the downtrend since 2013, and we're now at an all-time low of $36.
Yeah, clearly people don't want it. I mean,
it's terrible. There's got to be hundreds of them on TCG Player. There's 16. 16.
Wait, what?
Yeah, 16 total cards, not 16 listings. Each of them have 8 or 9. Like, there's 10 listings and there's 16 total cards.
So what is like Card Kingdom have them all?
I thought the same thing, but Card Kingdom has 0 actually.
No, well, I just checked. I think they have 2, but Star City has none.
Okay. Well, then CFB has 0, and I was looking around, and I don't check eBay, just because people still do sell on eBay, but it's not as popular as it once was. Mm-hmm. So I went and checked eBay, and I was like, man, there's got to be tons of these on eBay.
Of the original printing?
Of the original printing in English. There's 3. 2 of them are graded BGS 9.5s.
Wow.
Yeah.
So now, how many printings does this thing have? Other printings besides its original in 3 Kingdoms?
It was printed as a Judge promo. Yeah.
So this has a small supply.
Mm-hmm.
Is better than a highly played card in Commander,
mm-hmm.
and is currently at its all-time low.
During a pandemic in which all Commander cards are inflated right now.
So I think you said there's how many? Because you can subtract at least one from that total, because I'm buying one right now.
I just bought one, so now we're down to 15.
Yeah, that's not that. Yeah.
And by the time you guys are seeing this, there might be 14 if Hale buys one. There might be less. I mean,
or less. We'll see what I can find them for, because that's ridiculous. This is 15 copies on TCG.
Yeah.
Only printed in 3 Kingdoms, in English printings. 3 Kingdoms and a Judge promo.
Sure. Now, you could get a Japanese, Chinese, Australian copy. Well, actually, Australian would be the English version, I guess. But Japanese or Chinese versions of these cards, $16, $17, $18. But they printed a ton of them over there for Portal 3 Kingdoms. So, it's understandable. But these Portal 3 Kingdom cards, especially the English versions, there's such a low amount printed. That's why we have things like the starter deck Grim Tutor, is just way out of bounds. And still, even after the reprinting of Grim Tutor, it's still way up in the atmosphere. So even if
that hasn't even touched the real value on the original printing of Grim Tutor. So even a reprint, I don't think is going to really affect the value of the original printing of the Overwhelming Forces.
Yeah, no, I don't think it will. And I'm gonna pick this one up. Like I said, I already did. It's on its way.
So I just checked some of those prices on eBay you're talking about, like those graded ones. They're trying to get $200 to $400 for the graded ones, and even the non-graded one is sitting at like 53.
Yeah.
That's eBay.
I checked a local game store here in Houston. They've got one listed for $49.99 currently. I did check eBay sold listings. One did sell earlier this month for $60. So
yeah, that's $60 right now on Card Kingdom for near mint. They have one near mint and one EX for $51. What can we currently find it right now on TCG?
Let's see here. Well, I picked mine up for $36. Currently on TCG.
I'm gonna lock one in right now if this is a good price. Overwhelming.
I think 38.
38.71.
38.71.
Yeah.
That is
actually I only see 13 copies left available.
Oh well, there you go. It's going fast.
It is going fast. I just hope this gets you guys before they're all gone, because I'm getting mine. Wow, guys. Yeah.
So if that's
this is spicy.
If that's not enough spice for you guys, I don't know what else to do here. I mean, if we don't get viewership just on this card alone in the call here, I mean,
this is fantastic. That spicy, excellent diamond in the rough here.
And guys, I want you, if you could, just for this particular card, if you go and purchase one of these cards with us, I mean, we could do a buyout on this card with our viewership, guys. So if everybody goes and buys one, put it down in the comments, let us know you bought one, and we'll give shout outs and let you guys know and keep you updated on the price of this card, because we're all in it together, guys. I mean, this is fantastic opportunity for everybody. I mean, this doesn't come around very often. So jump on it if you can, for sure. And hopefully by the time you guys see this on Monday, you'll still be able to get it at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
now, I'll tell you, talking about these in demand or hard to find cards, that kind of makes me think reserve list here. So you think it's time to call in the reserves?
I think so. We can call in the reserves.
All right. Well, this week that we had quite a few actually we looked at. You guys talked to us a couple weeks back saying you want to start hearing about reserve lists. We kind of hemmed and hawed about it being a volatile market, but we decided there is a value in looking into that, checking in and keeping up with the reserve list and letting you guys know about what might be good to consider getting and what to stay away from because of the FOMO and because of buyouts. So this week we got one. It's been trending up for the last couple weeks now, or I should say the last about 2 months. And that is Cadaverous Bloom. And Cadaverous Bloom is an enchantment for 3, a black and a green. And it lets you choose a card in your hand and remove it from the game. And then you add either black, black, or green, green to your mana pool. Play this ability as a mana source. Now, traditionally in Magic, what I found is, well, it's a game of economy. And you start with various resources. And you spend those resources to gain advantage in the game. And some of the most powerful cards in Magic are ones that allow you to get resources or exchange one resource type for another resource type. For example, Channel, a card banned basically everywhere that lets you convert your life, which you have the highest at the start of the game, for something on which you have the lowest at the start of the game, mana. So being able to make that exchange on a 1-for-1 basis is pretty powerful. Now, Cadaverous Bloom lets you do that on a 1-for-2 basis. One card, 2 mana. Now you start the game with 20 to 40 life, depending on your game. You start with 7 cards in hand, typically, and 0 mana. Now as the game progresses, your mana may exceed your cards in hand, and that's when the resource shifts a little, and of course your life total is irrelevant, you just have to have more than 1, period. So anytime you're able to spend those resources that you have more of for something you have less of, that we call extreme value. Now, there's a recent card from M21, Peer into the Abyss, that lets you lose half your life, whatever. It's rounded up. So long as you're not at 1, you're fine. Pay half your life, whatever. Draw half your deck, sweet, on average 40 cards. If you got Cadaverous Bloom out and you're playing with Torment Hellfire, Exsanguinate, you name it, X card, you win. Your opponents lose as you pitch all these cards minus that to pay for that card. Really powerful. Stroke of Genius.
What was another one that just was
Pull
out
from
in Amonkhet?
Tomorrow? Is it Pull from Tomorrow?
Yeah, Pull from Tomorrow.
You have the Blue Finality.
Blue Finality. Any X draw card spell with this is just ridiculous. And even on its own, being able to discard a card that or I guess you remove it from the game, but either way, getting rid of a card in your hand that you otherwise don't really have much use for, to exchange it for 2 mana at any point after you've played Cadaverous Bloom is just all upside. You basically get a Simian Spirit Guide in 1 card times 2. I mean,
that
for an Elvis Spirit Guide.
This card is a lot of power, and the fact that it's currently only seen play in 122 decks is kind of shocking. But what's even more shocking is some of the decks it sees play in are actually some of the highest ranked decks in EDH. It's in Corvul, the Faker's King, which is the number 9 ranked commander in EDH with over 3,000 decks. Joda, Archmage Eternal, ranked number 16 with 2,700 decks. And Tassiger, Golden Fang, he's ranked 29 with 2,400 decks. And as Magic continues, the fact that this is a reserve list card that kind of breaks one of those early fundamental things Magic tried to avoid after Channel, yet they decided to break that one more time. And I think the reason they did it because it costs 5 on its own to get out. So you're not doing this turn 1, you're not pulling off the classic original combo, Black Lotus Channel Fireball turn 1. This is going to cost you a little more to get there. I think because that they were like, we're safe doing this, but they still they had enough foresight to go, we probably need to put this on reserve list because it's still kind of busted. And as they print more and more cards, like Peer into the Abyss and the like, it gets more and more powerful. I'm looking at this card and I'm saying I should run this. In fact, I recently picked up a couple of these because I want to run this in my Zexara, which is tons of X. It's X tribal. I've got tons of X draw spells to make Hydras, but the truth is, really my win con is I dig to Exsanguinate or I dig to Torment and Hailfire, and I win that way. Well, this card would let me play an X spell, draw all these cards. So long as I draw into one of those Exsanguinate or Torment and Hellfire, I then pitch all the others to go ahead and get it done with right then when I pay my X spell. Because I just doubled my mana from the card draw. Right. It's quite powerful, and I think at this point heavily overlooked. And as far as the cost of this card, you can pick up lightly played copies on TCG in bulk for as low as $2.80. And that's not bad for a long-term reserveless investment in a breakable, already broken in some form, EDH card.
Yeah. And again, guys, I just want to stress, we did last week in the video, and, we're going to keep coming with calling the reserves. We thought, like Hill had mentioned, we were hemming and hawing about it, but I think we're going to go ahead and continue to do it. It's going to be kind of a regular stay on the show. But just keep in mind, guys, this is not something to go run out and buy tomorrow and sell it next week or next month or next year. You want to hold on to this kind of stuff. We're at the bottom of these cards right now. And even if it is at an all-time high at $2.70,
Well, it's not. It's actually come down quite a bit in the last 2 months. About 2 months ago, April, it saw its low. And now it's ticked up from there. I had that information. Unfortunately, I didn't save it on here. But it's come up a little bit in the last 2 to 3 months. Some of that could be due to the COVID, inflation, and the like. Regardless, it's already hit its low. And it's all-time low in 4 years. So I don't expect it to ever go back below where it currently is. Yeah,
it probably won't. And even if it does get to that point, you're out 70 cents at this point. Who cares? But again, it's a long-term investment. By the end of the time in which you are going to get out of Magic, and you're 5, 6, 7 years down the road, this card is now a 26-year-old card, 27-year-old card. There's definitely going to be movement at some point over those 6 years, whether somebody tries to buy it out. You just have to keep kind of watching the market and pay attention for those opportunities. If it goes crazy, that's up to you. If you decide you want to strike while the iron's hot, go ahead and sell it. You can certainly do that, but be careful on doing that kind of stuff. If you're going to want to do that, I would suggest picking up about 10 of these. Use the next 2-3 months. Pick up 1 or 2 at a time. No big deal. It's only $5, the cost of a Magic the Gathering booster pack.
Yeah.
Get you about 10 of them, and then wait. And then when the iron is hot, sell half of them.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Like, most of what I buy is because I intend to play with it. Some of them, such as even like Sharknado, which was recent, I was like, I'm going to play with this in 3 or 4 decks, but I want to have some to sell or sit and sell on later that I can then reinvest elsewhere in Magic. So what he's saying with that is really good. Just kind of take your time with reserve lists. Don't rush in on FOMO. Look for the deals with reserve list cards. Even on the cheap ones, you're going to find ones that are inexpensive. That I do recommend, though, don't go below lightly played on reserve list unless you're looking power 9, in which case, if you want it for playing with, get your play copy. Heavily played's fine if you're just looking for it to play with, period. But if you're looking for investment, don't go below lightly played on anything reserve list, in my opinion. And the thing you'll find is at least half the listings out there that you're going to find are going to be moderately played or worse, because these are older cards. Reserve lists were back in days when we'd play. Honest to God, I have played unsleeved in parking garages on asphalt at 2 a.m. with Magic. Yep. Like, these cards, these old reserve list cards, they saw play. So lightly played is still a valuable pickup, and sometimes if it's one you also want to play with, it's doubly good on the amount you'll save between that super high end graded version. And on these tier 2, I'm going to call them reserve list cards, I wouldn't worry about graded. I'd worry about it being lightly played to near mint, but not graded. Not on the tier 2.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, I think that's about all we had for today. I do want to shout out Jeff again. Thank you so much, man, for commenting and liking and subscribing and winning the contest.
Yep.
We are getting your cards out to you. We are trying to figure out a way to do that currently, because Hale still has to sign the island.
Yeah.
So we're trying to figure out a good way to do that and get you the cards in a timely fashion. But just be patient with us. We'll get it to you. We're good for it.
And look on the bright side. While we're holding these cards, they currently are just going up, not down. So I mean, when you get it, it'll just be worth that much more.
We're saving you from yourself, Jeff. But in all seriousness, thank you all of you guys for taking the time out of your day and listening to us or watching us. It really warms our hearts to see that we're getting some viewership and stuff like that. And we have a good time doing it too. Mm-hmm. So if you guys have any suggestions for us, any comments, anything you'd like to see, I mean, as you saw, calling the reserves, we added because you guys asked for it, so ask for stuff. We're doing this for us because it's fun, but also for you guys. So, any constructive criticism or advice is going to be well read and well taken. So, again, just hit us up, guys, please. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, I'd like to add, please be sure to share this broadcast, share it with your friends, other people you think might be interested in both EDH and investment and MTG finance. Be sure to like this, comment below, let us know what you're interested in seeing on the show. If you have any really juicy specs, we'd love to hear them. Hit that notification bell in case you want to find out every time, whenever we are online. And talking about interesting specs, you never know. We might just jump on at any moment with a really spicy pick like Overwhelming Forces. Yeah. And if you're really curious, we have a couple set aside for next week because we had quite a bit. If you want some specs before they get too out of hand on what we're looking at for next week, reach out to us in the comments and maybe we'll direct message you with one or two thoughts on where you might want to be looking to park a couple dollars to invest in long term into EDH staples of the future. Until next time, Trent, what do they need to be doing?
Keep commanding the market.
Till next time, thanks for watching.